Here we are live. It is a beautiful Saturday morning, and man, oh man! So I finished reading The Observer yesterday, and there wasn't really any TNA specific news. But since I didn't get to do the Mike and JD show, I wanted to talk some other news bits just off the top, because I think this Daniel Garcia story is pretty interesting. Um, He's saying Dave said that Danny Garcia, his contract expires in October, and there were some rumblings earlier in the week that there was a contract issue between the two sides, and that I had heard from at least three different people is like, look, I don't think that he's going to be around much longer. And then if you watch Dynamite, Garcia at the end got the shit beat out of him by MJF. MJF turns heel, beats the hell out of Danny, and it kind of looked like Danny was being written off of the show. And then you hear like, no, yeah, his contract expires in October. I think it's a real possibility that he was not only written off the show, that he might not ever come back, that he might be heading to free agency, and what that looks like, who knows? But I mean, clearly there'd only be one destination for him. That'd be WWE, unless TNA wants to try to outbid WWE for that, which I don't know that they're in the position to be able to do something like that. Although, this new regime in TNA has been surprising me, and I'm going to talk about that when I get into my review. But yeah, it looks like Danny Garcia, AEW, like an OG. I know he wasn't a day one guy, but he was pretty damn close. But yeah, it looks like Danny Garcia is going to be heading to free agency here pretty soon, and he should have a hot market for him. I know that AEW would probably like to re-sign him, and I'm sure they're going to try like hell. And but WWE, WWE taking Garcia, that's a big move for WWE, and I'll tell you why. Because Garcia is like a young, kind of rising upstart. He's not a top guy yet. I don't know that he'll ever be a top guy. But he's a real good wrestler. He's a pretty good promo. And I think he got caught up in that stupid dance. And like looking at that dance, I'm like, I bet WWE likes the dance. I bet they'd be real happy to have that dance on their show. So that's just kind of what WWE likes. So, but that I think that is incredibly interesting. And could TNA? No. The only reason I'm talking about it is because we didn't have a podcast this week, and the news came out after I recorded on Monday. So, but yeah, Danny Garcia, man, that's pretty interesting. I do think that it's a very real possibility that come this fall or winter, he is going to be a member of the WWE roster. Hold on. Io says Garcia is the Blackpool Combat Club was a total miss. Yeah. Well, I'm am I misremembering? Was he in the Blackpool Combat Club? I don't remember that. He might have been. I watched so much wrestling, it's hard to keep up with everything. I can't remember what happened, a year ago, but I can tell you like vivid details about what happened in 1994 right now, but I can't tell you what happened like earlier this year. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. And in the Observer, he also said that Pentagon. Oh yeah, Io said no. Garcia in the Blackpool Combat Club was it? No, yeah, he wasn't. He said no, he wasn't. It's like so maybe not being in it is a miss. I don't know. Yeah, he definitely wasn't. It's like I don't remember that at all, Io. Look, dude, I am still like half asleep, so you can't do that stuff to me. And in fact, I'll have to edit this off the show. But in about 10 minutes, I'm gonna run downstairs and refill my cup. That's how I'm doing today. That's how I'm doing today. But Pentagon Junior, man, he said the Pentagon Junior looks like he's gonna be going to the highest bidder. His deal comes up a little bit later this year, and like that is a guy that if I'm TNA, I go throw everything I got at that guy. Not like Will Ospreay money, not CM Punk money, nothing like that. But what I would do is I'd be like, okay, what's Moose making? Because Moose is very clearly the highest paid guy on the roster, like signed guy. I'd be like, let's go a little bit above that, and let's see if Pentagon would be willing to take that to come here, and we can make him one of our tippy top guys. Because when he was there, I'll be honest, Pentagon was the reason why I came back to TNA originally in 2018, because I was completely out for years. Like there would be times where somebody like Bobby Roode or somebody would be on Busted, like they would come on Busted Open. I used to listen to Busted Open. They would come on and they would convince me to come back and watch the show. And then I would pop in and out, and then it would be a lot of stuff would be like screw jobs and stuff like that. And they would occasionally have good stuff, and then of course the Hardy stuff sucked me back in for a little bit, and I was in. And then whenever Jarrett comes in and takes over and like they leave, like I was out again. I'll be honest, I maybe saw 1 or 2 shows during the Jarrett reboot era when Jarrett came back and took over. So I was out for years, but I really liked Lucha Underground, and I became a huge Pentagon fan. And in fact, Pentagon came to San Francisco to wrestle Cody Rhodes. And that was the very first time I ever went to an independent wrestling show. And it wasn't because of Cody. I liked Cody at the time. I was a big fan of Cody. It would have been 2016, 2017 time, right? I was a big fan of Cody, but I really wanted to go see Pentagon. Pentagon was my favorite wrestler, and because he was on Lucha Underground. And so I actually braved the city on a Friday night. And you guys have no idea how much I hate traffic. If I find out there's going to be a bunch of traffic, and trust me, anytime you go to San Francisco on a Friday night, it's brutal. But anytime I find out there's going to be a bunch of traffic and I have an event, I have honestly had tickets to a 9 Inch Nails concert one time in San Francisco. And I get in my car, put in my GPS, and it said it was going to take me 2.5 hours to get there because of the bridge was backed up. I said, fuck it, I'm not going. And I ended up just putting them on StubHub and sold the tickets for a fraction of the price that I paid for them. So that's how much I hate traffic. I don't do traffic. So anyway, I braved the traffic on a Friday night, got there just in time. And I saw Pentagon and Cody Rhodes in the main event. And to this day, it's one of my favorite memories. And my wife was with me. It was really cool. So anyway, I was following just wherever Pentagon was going, I was going to go check him out because I really like it. And his match with Vampiro on Lucha Underground, one of my favorite matches. Loved it. Well, he comes over, and at Redemption, I want to say 2018, was the first pay-per-view I had seen from TNA in a long time. It was Pentagon, Phoenix, and Austin Aries in the main event. And Pentagon won. And I was excited. And then, of course, I see the spoilers the next day. I was like, oh, wow, we're going to get a Pentagon Junior World Championship run. This should be great. Well, as it turns out, that was just a gimmick for one night because Alberto Del Rio had gotten himself fired again. And the Lucha Brothers were just thrown into the match, and they felt they needed to make good for the audience. So they gave Pentagon the victory. And then he lost right back to Austin Aries the next night. So he was really only technically, he was only technically the champion for one night, but on television it was for a couple of weeks because they did a mass taping the next day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why? What a bunch of jerks. I was just now coming in. Well, then, Don Callis and Scott D'Amore on Jericho, earlier that year had kind of talked me into it. So I already had my interest peaked. Well, then they did the they did the LAX versus OGs feud, and I loved that. And then you head into Slammiversary 2018, and the Sammy Callahan Pentagon Junior match had me all the way back. And I haven't missed an episode of Impact since then. Well, a new first run episode. I've missed some compilation stuff and their annual best of series at the end of the year. It's having weeks off for me. So, because I'm I've already seen all this stuff. I don't want to watch it again. But yeah, so if I'm TNA, I make a full blown launch to go sign Pentagon. Absolutely. I think that he'll re-sign with AEW because I don't think that Tony Khan's going to want to lose him. But I think WWE would love to have him, and I don't think they would care if they got Phoenix. And everybody's like, Phoenix is better. Phoenix is better. Phoenix is like in bell to bell is much better, but he didn't have a fraction of the charisma that Pentagon has, and so Pentagon would just work better in WWE. And I think that and in TNA specifically, he is right up there among your top 5 people on your roster, like at all times. Like he is always going to be in that mix if you bring him over. So I would freaking love that. So, but yeah, man, Pentagon Jr. So hold on, swig of coffee for Pentagon.